All right, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich. My partner, Sean Williams, is having trouble tonight getting in. So let's see if this will help. All right. Not sure what's going on here. All right. That's on his end. I can't help him. Okay. So tonight's show is going to be about the what if scenario. We always play what if scenarios in sports. It's always, what if okay, let's go back in time. What if Roger Staubach does not throw that Hail Mary pass to Drew Pearson, or Drew Pearson drops that ball and the Vikings go back to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 10? That's one of their best teams. Do they play better than they did against the Steelers from Super Bowl 9? What if Scott Norwood makes that kick in the 1990 Super Bowl against the Giants? Is that okay? Sean's God, Sean. Okay. Does that change the narrative for the Buffalo Bills because they actually win a Super Bowl? Okay, send this again. All right. Scenarios like that. There's always these what if things in every sport, and how that what if changes entire narratives depends on how important whatever it is we're talking about, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, how that changes in a sort of a domino effect, the future of a particular franchise or dynasty. Hey, Anna, how are you doing? So I picked a Cher song as the theme for this program. If I could turn back time, and I want to talk about the Saints and the various what if scenarios within the history of the Saints, because I mean, the first one that comes to mind immediately is the 2018 NFC Championship game. What if the officials make the right call? It becomes first down. The Rams have one timeout left, I believe. And I think that was right before the 2-minute warning when that play happened. So the Saints can conceivably. Oh, okay. So the Saints could conceivably go on to go to the Super Bowl that year because they could run the clock out, kick a field goal, because they would have first and goal, not give the Rams any time left to do anything, and they go on to Super Bowl 53. But unfortunately, of course, that doesn't happen. The other one that comes immediately to mind is actually two of them, and I mentioned it in the preview tonight, and I'm still waiting to see if Sean can get in. He's having all kinds of problems this morning, tonight. The other one was in 2017, the divisional round against the Minnesota Vikings. Marcus Williams makes the tackle. He doesn't duck his head. He instead waits, lets Stephon Diggs make the catch, wrap him up, tackle it. It's less than 10 seconds. Run the clock out. Game over. We go on. Hi, Chad. We go on to the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and who knows how that would have turned out. Finally, the 2011 season. I've talked about this one many, many, many times. In 2011, Roman Harper, who, congratulations, by the way, Roman Harper and Jari Evans both were nominated for the next class for the Saints Hall of Fame, which hopefully will happen during this regular season. That's still up in the air, but hopefully that happens. Okay, Sean, what are you trying to tell me? I don't know what to tell you, Sean. It's telling me he has no internet connection. There he is.
The amazing disappearing co-host.
Are you in now?
I don't know what's going on, man. You send me the link, and it says if for some reason, and before I get off on that tangent, there's a good chance that this may be like the other night where I'm on and off and on and off. Apparently, I don't have much of a signal tonight. I've got like 2 or 3 bars, I think. But once I get on, like, I was on a while ago, and I would come on, and then you would come on, and then you would go off, and I'd come on, and it would never quite sync. And then it kicked me off. Well, when it did that, anytime it does that, it doesn't allow me to try to reuse the link for some reason.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you pay the bills, and I'll tell you what we were talking about.
We're live?
Get on. Yeah, we're live. No, that's fine. They can all hear
the wonders of doing a live show.
That's it.
Hey, we're all friends here. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight on Under the Dome. As always, we appreciate you guys, because without you guys, there is no us guys. Did I just say us guys? Anyway, it's just us. You can follow us on Facebook at the Under the Dome podcast page. You can follow us on YouTube and on iTunes, and on Twitter at.
Yep.
There. And I can't reach yours.
No, you can't, because you're not in the same room, and my finger is so big. There we go, right there. And I have a wide-eyed, fish-eyed lens on this computer, so it makes me look fatter. Oh, by the way, hang on here. This is going to be fun. I shouldn't be doing this with this arm, but that's okay. Since you did it last week, I thought I'd do it this week.
The Ulrich jersey.
Yeah, this is mine. Look at this mess. Okay. This is mine. Yeah, Ulrich. And it's number 12. That's
in honor of Billy Joe Holbert, right?
Yeah, that was Jake Delome's number at the time. And also because all my favorite quarterbacks in the 70s all wore number 12. So,
well, I thought it was a rule that all quarterbacks in the 70s wore number 12.
It sure seemed like it. I mean, Staubach, Bradshaw, Greasy, Namath, just go down the list. So all of them wore 12.
Yeah.
So that was the number to have. Everybody wanted 12. So thank you, Jerry. This jersey actually goes back to 2004. I got this in 2004. When I started wearing it in 2006 to games, the people were like, where did you get that Colston jersey from? And it was like week 3 or week 4 of the 2006 season. And I'm like, dude, I've had this jersey for 2 years. Just nobody was here in 2004 to go to these games.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
that's anyway. Like people when I wear mine to the Dome, the number 37, they see me coming and they're like, cool jersey. And then they'll look at the back and say, you son of a bitch.
Oh yeah. People are like, in 2004 and 2005, when I did wear it, and I did go to some games in 2005, I went to one game in Tiger Stadium against the Bears. But in 2004, when I went to games, people are like, who's Ulrich? I'm like, that's me. You know, I mean, but people.
He's the drummer for Metallica.
Yeah, that's right. or they mispronounced my last name. That's Ulrich. Ulrich. I get that a lot. So
Yeah.
anyway, so in 2006 when I started wearing this jersey again, because I didn't have that many jerseys. I had this one, and I had a Reggie Bush jersey. And I think that's basically it. I bought a Drew Brees San Diego powder blue jersey for really cheap. But I love the powder blue Chargers jersey,
Yeah.
so I got that. But I didn't have very many jerseys in 2006. But yeah, that was the thing. And when I got this in 2004, my wife's like, "You are crazy. Who is going to wear a jersey to a game? What, you think they're going to call you out the stands because somebody's injured? And oh, look, there's somebody with a Saints jersey on. He can come out and play and fill in for." That's, I'm like, no, man.
Well, hey, that's what they did when Washington played running back, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, that was my buddy Brian Mitchell got to do that back in 1990. But yeah, so then I took my wife to a game, and she's like, "Look at all these jerseys, all these people wearing jerseys." I'm like, yeah. In the old days, everybody was just wearing black or gold or white, or you wore whatever to Saints games because NFL properties hadn't gotten so big and people buying jerseys and things like that. That wasn't a thing. I mean, in the 90s, for example, the only Saints jersey you could buy was a Morton Anderson jersey. That was it.
Yeah.
There was no Eric Martin jersey. There was no Ricky Jackson jersey, or Ricky Williams later. There was no Pat Swilling, Bobby Hebert. Wade Wilson was the first Saints quarterback jersey I saw, and that was in '93. And then I started seeing a couple of different Saints jerseys, but I never saw an Everett jersey. I never saw, it had to be somebody who the NFL thought people would buy their jersey number, and that was really it. It's only been in the past 10 or 15 years that you really saw the explosion of jerseys where you could get any number you want.
That's what I tell people now. Everybody's talking. I have a lot of people that ask me, do I think that the season is going to go on without fans in the stands? And I said, well, to be perfectly honest, all the dangers of COVID and all that aside, I really can't see it happening because of the money that's going to be lost. Most people don't understand or realize that the money that's made by this league isn't made. There you go.
I wanted to show everybody this. I've been meaning to show everybody this thing. And that's the schedule. Well, this way. That's the schedule. Yeah. So 87 playoffs.
Most people don't realize that the money that's made by these teams is made on home games. It's made on an ass every 18 inches. It's made on the jerseys that are sold at these games, the merchandise that's sold at these games, the merchandise that's sold away from these games. That's how this league is funded. The concept of doing these games with no fans, there's no money being generated there, except for like TV rights. And
I was going to say, actually, the TV revenues really are what the league goes by. That's what really pays the bills. The NFL properties, the jersey sales, the tickets, all that other stuff does fund a lot of the stuff for the club, the parking concessions and so forth. But their main focus is television revenue. And if you're not watching the games and you're not at the games, the league does suffer, because that's how they really, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the correct phrase, but that's really how they push the league, because the contracts are determined based on market share. Market share is come by how many people are watching the games, how many people going to the games. And if you're not going to the games, you're not watching the games on television, then advertisers aren't going to pay big money to advertise during the game, and that drives the contracts down. All that stuff is a domino effect. I've watched a lot of. Oh, let me show you this, Sean. This is from Jerry.
Jerry sent me a picture of the coolest cup I have ever seen in my life. That's
what he's telling me. He's telling you to show me the picture. But
I'll send it to you when the show's over.
Okay. Anyway, so going back to what I was going to say a second ago, I've been watching a lot of old games that are on YouTube. More and more old Saints games are showing up on YouTube, and I'm really appreciating this too. And you watch the commercials from back then, and the bulk of the commercials were for Die Hard Battery, Low and Brow Beer, Light Beer from Miller, AC Delco, Mopar parts. What are some of the other ones I saw? Insurance companies, Wang Computers. You remember Wang?
Oh yeah.
My dad made a lot of off-color jokes about Wang Computers and Siemens Industries. So, hey, my dad was in the Air Force, so what can I say? Alcoa.
Yeah, Alcoa can't wait.
Yep, for tomorrow, Alcoa can't wait. And of course, I knew Alcoa because that was one of my dad's big customers back then. So I used to hear a lot about Alcoa. And you remember, You Make the Call. Alcoa presents You Make the Call, where you got to make a decision on whether or not something was a penalty. Later on, it became IBM in the 80s, but it was Alcoa. Yeah. And a lot of United Way commercials.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And Goodyear. And Goodyear.
Goodyear, a lot of tire commercials. The 3-2-1, 3 belts of steel wrapped with 2. How did the commercial go? 2 or something. Oh, Presto and antifreeze, another one. But the 3-2-1, that was a certain kind of tire. Snow track. It's amazing to watch because you sit there looking at these things, going, "My God, it looks so cheap." But there wasn't free agency, so in the commercial, so they didn't need the revenues that they need today, and the commercials were just really hokey. I mean, it was just really funny. So, but yeah,
well, I would venture to guess that they probably didn't pay the exorbitant cost then that they do now for commercial time either.
No, and that was the whole point. The league wasn't, especially look at this 1970s games. The league wasn't this. It was just really growing into this mega industry. It wasn't until 1984 that the Super Bowl commercials really, really took off. And that was the Apple computer and the Big Brother ad, that the Macintosh, that was the commercial from the 84 Super Bowl. But prior to that, and they have old Super Bowl games online too, and you can see the commercials for those. Prior to that, it's just very much like what you would see during prime time. A lot of the same kind of commercials. I was just amazed how many battery commercials and how many spark plug commercials. I mean, when's the last time we changed a spark plug in a car? So you normally don't. You can go 100,000 miles already without that. But
you go through the car before you go through the spark plug. Usually.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have points. You don't have distributed caps anymore. You don't have any of that stuff. So it's a totally different motor than back then too. But yeah, and then the car commercials. There were a lot of car commercials. Ford bought a lot. Chevy bought a lot. But it was just different kinds of car commercials than you see today. The thing they kept hyping, and of course this brings back a lot of memories, was gas mileage.
Toughness
for the trucks, the smoothness of a ride, the luxurious feel of cars,
Mr. Majestic Ford truck.
A lot of Pinto commercials, which always makes me laugh, but yeah, it was a lot on economy, because This was the era of the gas crunch. I mean, you had one in the
Mm-hmm.
early 70s. Then by the late 70s, there were days where you couldn't get gas. So you wanted a car with good gas mileage. So I mean, it's a different kind of era. And I was saying, the NFL properties was just getting started, so there wasn't a big push for jerseys and for team stuff. People just didn't wear that stuff to the games. That was something that took off in the late 80s and early 90s with starter and things like that. So
Yeah. Okay, to shift gears a little bit.
Yes.
I've been waiting all week to ask you this.
Okay.
Your number one what if moment.
Uh-huh.
That was phrased in the form of a question.
Oh, my number one what if moment.
Yeah.
It's so hard, but it was the one I was getting ready to talk about right before you popped back on the air. In 2011, it's probably my ultimate what if moment, because more so than 2018, that 2011 team was just so good and so powerful, and we would have been able to go to the second Super Bowl in 3 years. It's Roman Harper picking off that pass instead of Vernon Davis catching it in the end zone to preserve that win, the greatest win in Saints history. We host the Giants the next week, who we beat the crap out of about a month earlier on Monday Night Football, and they weren't going to be any better playing in the Dome where we were undefeated. They didn't match up well with our kind of offense. So I think we go to the Super Bowl, and I think we beat Tom Brady. So you beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in the greatest, most important games of the season, the championship, 4 Super Bowl titles. You go to the Super Bowl 2 times in 3 years. It probably changes the Bounty Gate punishment, because I don't think that Roger Goodell wants to punish the defending world champions in 2012 the way he does, because that makes him really look bad, because it makes the Saints championship wins look quote unquote tainted.
Yeah.
So I think Roger Goodell kind of more or less handles this one under the table, and we maybe get some suspensions of players, but not of coaches. And I think behind the scenes, well, it was at the end of 2011. It was going to happen anyway. Greg Williams is gone, and they may punish Greg Williams by himself, but not Sean Payton. So I think a lot of things change because of that. And you don't go through the Bounty Gate year of 2012. You may not go through the Rob Ryan reign of error. You may not go through all those the years of bad drafting and so forth. I'm not saying you get a rosy picture. I think the team still gets old. I think you still have some salary cap issues, but I don't think you're constantly trying to get back to the big game. I think maybe they start looking at rebuilding earlier. 2013, 2014 becomes more of a rebuilding year because you've already won the Super Bowl twice. So, I mean, that to me, that's the ultimate what if moment, because there's so many things that could have happened if you win that game. How about you?
Well, the one thing that I of all of that, the one thing that I may disagree with you on is the whole Roger Goodell thing, because I think there were a lot more circumstances involved in that process than what most people realize. Roger Goodell had to look like he was taking a stand against player violence, whatever you want to call it, against head injuries, and the Saints were served up on a silver platter as a sacrificial lamb, in my opinion.
But do you do that to the defending Super Bowl champions?
Well, I mean, he did that to Tom Brady. So
he suspended a player. He didn't see Bill Belichick got caught filming practices in Spygate, and all they got deducted were draft picks and a fine. Belichick was not suspended. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think Peyton gets suspended for a year. I don't think Mickey Loomis gets suspended for 8 weeks. I don't think Joe Vick gets suspended for 4 weeks. I don't think those things happen. I think they lose draft picks. I think they probably get some players suspended. Jonathan Vilma, Anthony Hargrove, those kind of players get suspended. But I really don't think that you get the closest I can come to is the SMU death penalty. You don't get that to Peyton. So that's the only thing I was saying with that. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead with your other stuff though, because you're right. There was a lawsuit, and he had to look tough. That hey, we're going to fix this violence in this violent game. But
which by its very definition is a contradiction in terms.
Exactly.
You're looking at modern day gladiators. If you I think it was Shakespeare said, "He who hath no taste for this battle, let him depart." By its very design and nature, football is a dangerous and bloodthirsty sport. And if you try to legislate out the I don't want to say the violence, because
that's what they are doing. They're doing that. Again, I don't mean that. I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but I mean going back to the games I was watching from the 70s and the 80s. There are some plays I'm watching this going, oh my God, there'd be a sea of flags. They did this.
Go back and watch film of Jack Lambert.
Oh yeah,
Jack Tatum.
Well, Henry Childs on one play, he has his head turned. He's going on a seam route down the middle of the field, and he's got his head turned to catch a ball, and this safety just comes in there and clocks him, launches himself into his helmet and face mask, and Henry Childs is just laid out flat, and the crowd does ooh, and the announcer's like, wow, that was a hit. No flags, nothing. And he just gets up next play. I mean, today there would be a sea of flags after a play like that.
And like 17 suspensions and 3 lawsuits. And
there's a play I saw what's his name for the LT, Lawrence Taylor.
Oh my God.
He goes through the tackle, reaches over, grabs Gary Danielson. I think that's who it is. It's either Gary Danielson or Eric Hipple. One or the other. Just takes him and throws him like a rag doll over the tackle. The tackle's still blocking him, and he just throws him on his ass, and it's unbelievable.
You're going to have to do better than that.
Yeah, Eric Hipple gets blasted right on the sideline. His helmet goes one way. He goes face first into the dirt. He doesn't know who he is. That was the old joke. Remember the Snickers commercial? Do you know where you are? Yeah, I'm at the stadium. Do you know who I am? Yeah, your coach. And who are you?
Batman.
I'm Batman. And my wife to this day, every time somebody gets a concussion, he thinks he's Batman. That's I love that commercial because I love how he gets so serious in his face. I'm Batman.
Oh my God. Oh, if I hadn't been on the other side of that and had those Batman moments before when I was playing, that wouldn't be nearly as funny. But it's, and please don't send me hate mail. I'm not making light of the head injury issue.
No.
Because it really is something that needs to be addressed, but you can't address it by changing the nature of the game. That's strictly my opinion.
Well, that's why they've changed. You can't go high anymore. You can't go low anymore. Can't hit a defenseless receiver. All those things have changed. And it's
but at the same time, part of I'm trying to say this correctly. Another aspect of this game at the professional level is the concept of calculated risk.
Mhm.
You, as a professional football player, you accept that there's a moderately high risk of personal injury, and that's why you're paid these exorbitant contracts. You're getting paid more for 2 Sundays of work than I'll make in 10 years. Don't bitch at me about how dangerous your job is.
Well, and the funny thing is, uh, it's River City Relay they're talking about. The River City Relay. Crazy thing. I watched River City Relay at church. We happened to be at one of our Sunday bashes with a halftime service. When that play happened, I jumped and was screaming, "Oh boy, go, go, go!" Then I can't. Yeah, Carney misses the kick.
And then there was probably a lot of having to confess.
Well, the funny thing is, after the River City Relay, we had done a Christmas photo shoot earlier that day with the kids. They were all little, and we got home, and I'm listening to the game on the radio on the way home. And we get home, and the game is terrible, and then I walk in the door, turn on the TV to watch the last few minutes of it, and that play happens, and we're all jumping up and down, screaming, "Oh my God, I can't believe this!" And then, they miss the extra point, and we're all like, "Oh my God!" Just like Jim Henderson. Oh my God, how could you do that? But that was
it's so ironic that one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history completely crapped to bed on that.
Well, and that's again looking back at old games. I watched the '87 Saints Steelers game when we do the goal line stand and we win that game, and we were talking about this last week when I was talking about overrated players. Morton Anderson missed 3 field goals in that game, and it's just today, if Morton Anderson, not knowing who he is, if he was just a kicker for the Saints and he missed 3 field goals in one game, it might be like, cut this bum, he's terrible.
Yeah.
But that's just that is just creating conspiracy theories here. Saints were hosting the Super Bowl. Yeah, it was 2012.
Yeah, it was.
That was 2012. We would have. That's my wife's. My wife is convinced whatever stadium or whatever team is going to host that Super Bowl, they're not making the playoffs. They're not doing shit that year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That I think, to be totally honest, and I may be a complete jackass on this, but I think that was the part of the whole Bountygate thing that pissed me off the most, because it's as to be one play away for all practical intents and purposes the year before. Obviously, you're going to think that you're going to be a solid contender to go back the next year.
Yeah.
And we would be the first team ever to play the Super Bowl in our home stadium. I think that was what made me the maddest about the whole thing.
And it was funny because my wife left the house like she usually does during Saints games because she can't handle the stress. No, she can't. True story. She cannot handle the stress.
I can't imagine what stress that would be. But anyway.
Well, she comes back after the 49ers Saints game in 2011, that playoff game. She's like, "You're not as mad as I thought you'd be." And I said, "Well, we turned the ball over 5 times. It really would have been hard. It was unbelievable that we even got to the position we were in a position to win." I said, "But, Pierre Thomas got knocked out. We'll be back next year." I felt like next year we were going to be able to go back. Of course, Bountygate happened, and as the years have passed on, that made me madder and madder. And I said, the other reason why I wasn't mad, I said, we went to Super Bowl 2 years ago. We're going to be back. This core is still good. None of this stuff was an accident. All the things that happened, like I felt like in 2006, when I felt like we were never going to go back. And had we not won, and this is kind of a reverse what if, what if Tracy Porter doesn't pick off Brett Favre? Suppose it's just an incomplete pass. He drops it. Do they kick that field goal? Does Ryan Longwell
Sure.
make that field goal? And if they make that field goal and go to the Super Bowl, and even if they lose, which they probably would have, lost to the Colts, once again, this is why I was pissed off in 2006. You feel like you'll never win. It'll never happen.
And see, that's a fundamental part of being a Saints fan, because we've been there so many times to get so close just to miss.
Yep. And so because we won a Super Bowl, I wasn't as pissed. When I was in 2006, when we lost the NFC Championship game, I went outside and punched the shed. I mean, I did. I went out there and punched a wooden door, and that's how bad I was. I had to hit something. And
I have kind of the same experience, not with the with what you were talking about, but with the Minneapolis Miracle. I cannot tell you how many people texted, called. Both of my parents called me to make sure that I was okay, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It was. I wasn't mad. Obviously, I was disappointed, but I mean, it was a fluke play.
My daughter was really upset. My middle one, Allison, was really upset that happened. In fact, we saw it on this TV right here. This one right behind me. We were watching on that TV, and because she came in because the game was almost over, and she was excited. The game was almost over. We're going to Philadelphia. She kept saying, and I said, I can't believe it. They should have lost this game because of the way they played in the first half. But
see, that's part of it too. I said, I told people, I said, had the Saints struck a lick at anything in the first half of that ball game, it wouldn't have even been, that play would have been irrelevant.
I was more upset at the fact that Willie Snead missed the wide open Kamara on that pass play, because he was wide open, and that was an easy touchdown. And I get emotional, like when in 2009 when Meacham stole the ball. I'm screaming at the TV, "Fuck you, like this." I'm doing it. I'm like, I'm pointing at him, screaming at him, just like, all that fingers. I'm like, yeah, that's what you get. That's what you get. That kind of stuff. And, after Jimmy Graham scored a touchdown, I'm like, how does it feel, 49ers? How does it feel? I had to put up with this shit all during the Montana years. How does that feel? And of course, I spoke too soon. But that was the thing. That was my first reaction. So that's why I'm an entertaining guy at home to watch a game. At the stadium, I'm normal. I really am, because I'm like, people can see me. So I can't be acting an idiot. But at home, and when I'm by myself, oh my God, it's like an entirely different person takes over. And
I am the most wound up. I mean, I'm sitting there like this and watching, and it gets down to the end of the game, and it's like, Jesus, thank you. Okay, it's over. I'm so wound up during the Saints game, and I mean, it ain't like my pay scale changes if they win or if they lose, but I'm that emotionally invested.
I got it. I've got a Fitbit on. Okay, I got this Fitbit. I can't ever do this. I got this Fitbit on. Okay, during the Saints game, my heart rate is up in the 120s, 130s when it's normally like 70, and I'm accusing every player from the other team's parents had never been married. I am wishing decapitations on people, and if a guy catches too many passes, I'm like, go find somebody we can afford to get ejected just to take this dude out.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm saying these kind of things. My wife's like, every time you say something like that, something bad happens to the Saints. I'm like, no, if something bad happens to the Saints, if I say something or I don't say something, that's how I am. I mean, that's oh
Okay.
yeah.
Well, my
I,
biggest
go
what if
ahead.
moment.
There you go.
Since you chose the one that you chose,
Yeah.
which would have been probably a close second to mine, if not my first choice. It was kind of close there.
Mhm.
The no call.
Yeah. I was
Um,
I was mad about that one. I was but
the reason that it hurt me, and make no mistake about it, it physically pained me
Mhm.
when that happened, because I felt like we got jobbed, man.
Oh yeah.
Completely, totally, 100%. To go through like what, 18, 19 weeks, and to be at the point that you were at just to get bent over the table and drilled, that's wrong.
I could have handled a Minneapolis Miracle type of mistake over an official's mistake.
Yeah.
That's what set me off the most. I mean, I wouldn't have been happy
Well,
because
it's
again.
two different things, because the Minneapolis Miracle, if
Mhm.
anything, as an athlete, you're taught from day one that you always play until the final whistle,
Mhm.
because you never know what's going to happen. And anytime that the game hangs in the balance, it's always going to be possible for that sort of thing to happen. The no call was inexcusable. And not just that, the part that made it the worst was the fact that we were screwed and there was absolutely no recourse.
No. And that's, I've sold this story a thousand times. I'll tell it again. It was one of those great fall, winter days in New Orleans where it's cool enough that you can open all the windows of your house and it's sunny and dry outside and it feels just like you have air conditioning going. I mean, it was a pretty day. So I had all the windows open and I had, I got a sliding glass door and I had the screen pulled, but I got the air coming through. So, I'm home and my neighbors 3 streets over knew there was a pass interference call because they could hear me and they knew it wasn't just an interference call; it was an effing interference call. I mean, that's what it was like. I was just, I was that livid, and I just that's what was hard on me because from that point on, you just and this is what Avery's talking about here. From that point on, it feels like it's rigged. You're not going to win this game.
Yeah,
Um,
the fix is in.
yeah, and what happened in overtime? I'm like, oh my god, they mug Breeze, then they go and push Michael Thomas down so he could pick off the ball. And I'm like, oh, I guess we're just playing street ball now. So yeah, you felt like it was set up. It was set up to lose.
Yeah.
And yeah, people can blame Dan Arnold for dropping the touchdown pass. Yeah, you can blame the Saints for not scoring enough points in the first half. But it was so frustrating because it shouldn't have even gotten to that point. And that's what pissed me off more than anything else. It was one of those games where it is very much like, what if Tracy Porter does not pick off that pass?
Yeah.
against Brett Favre, because the Super Bowl pickoff was just that sealed it. But that was the game that hurt. That game did.
The Tracy Porter's interception, the one in the Super Bowl sealed it, just like you just said.
Yes.
The one in the Minnesota game provided it.
Right. And I've told this story 1,000 times. Now, if you've ever seen the footage of Sam Rutigliano when he was the Cleveland Browns coach, he's got his hands, he's standing up, hunched over, hands on his knees, going, "One time, baby, one time, one time." I was literally saying that the whole final drive, because I was like, all season long, we've gotten that critical turnover
at just the right time.
So I kept saying, one time, this is it. We got to make that one play. One time, we're going to get that turnover. And I was really thinking Darren Sproles. Not Darren Sproles, I'm sorry, Darren Sharper. I was really thinking Darren Sharper. Sharper's going to make that play.
Yeah.
I said, Sharper's going to do it. And turns out to be Porter, which was even better. But because imagine the awkwardness now if Sharper would have made the interception that would have shut the Vikings down. How do you not show that play? How does that play not become part of Saints history? But at the same time, you can't talk about it. So there were some other what ifs. My brother brought up a few of them. They go back in time. But I'll start with the oldest first. He brought up the 79 Saints Falcons game, which he and I watched at home because my mom went to that game with my dad. But I'm going to bring up another game from the 79 season. What if the Saints win that game against the Raiders? Because they were 7-6. If they won that game, they go to 8-6, and the league was going to give them permission to print playoff tickets. Okay. They play the Rams in week 14. I'm sorry, week 16. We're a 16-game season by that time. They play the Rams in week 16 in Los Angeles. So that's the showdown for the division title. They had a Chargers game in between there. But if the Saints win that game on Monday Night Football, do they win the next two games and go to the playoffs? And the Rams don't. The Rams went to the Super Bowl that year. That's a good what if. I mean, do you remember much about the 79 season? How old were you in 79? Oh, you my age. Never mind.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, I'm just saying. What do you know about the 79 season? I mean, we know they went 8-8. They beat the Rams anyway. They lose because they lost to the Raiders. The following week, I was at that game. My dad took me to the Chargers game. They got blown out 35-0. And a lot of people said it was a Monday night hangover. They called the game, that the Saints did not like they were into that game at all because they lost that game. Do you think they probably run the table and go to the playoffs for the first time in 79?
I think it's very possible. The Rams, that season, the Rams got more mileage off of less tread than any team I've ever seen in history. I mean, to begin with, you're playing most of the season with a backup quarterback that nobody's ever heard of. You don't have the quote unquote superstars on your roster like a Bradshaw, Swan, Stallworth, Lambert, Ham, Shell. You don't have those guys, and you almost beat the team in the Super Bowl that nobody ever beat. Yeah. So,
well, you peaked in the playoffs. That was the thing.
Yeah.
They were bad until they got to the playoffs, and they caught Dallas without Roger Staubach. You had Danny White, because Staubach had already got knocked out by L.C. Greenwood earlier that season, and that was actually the end of his career, because he retired after the 79 season. Then you get Tampa in the NFC Championship game, and
Doug Williams.
You beat them with field goals. You beat them 9-0, I think it was, nothing but field goals.
Yeah.
And earlier that year, the Saints beat the Buccaneers in Tampa 42-14. They sent Doug Williams to the bench. So, the Saints could match up with Tampa if they got that far. I don't know if they beat Dallas in Dallas, even with Danny White, but it does make it interesting. That's an interesting way of going through the playoffs. Okay, so let's fast forward. 1983, next big what if. Lansford's kick. The final game of the season, Bum Phillips, once again, we're playing the Rams, this time at home. We're 8-7. We go 9-7. We go to the playoffs, unfortunately, to face the Washington Redskins. But we go 9-7 in 1983. We go 9-7 by beating the Rams. Do the Saints advance much further? They get a winning season. They go to the playoffs, but they go to Washington.
I don't think that there's any. I don't think there's any chance whatsoever that they would have knocked off the Redskins.
Right, you're playing the highest scoring offense in NFL history. John Riggins at his peak.
Yeah.
Joe Theismann with a whole leg.
And the fun bunch. You're going to be highly challenged to stop that kind of juggernaut.
Right, exactly. The only thing you would have got was essentially the 87, what you got in 87. Your first trip to the playoffs, a winning season, and congratulations, here's your ass. Because they're going to hand it to you. All right.
Yep. We shall not we shall not address the beast mode game on this program at this point in time. Thank you for participating. No. I don't have blood pressure medication, and we're no.
All right, so we'll fast forward a little bit further. Okay. I'm going to throw this one out just to say it because
one more thing. The beast mode is not a what if moment; it's a what the hell moment. So no, that's a completely different show.
All right, in '88, Saints play the Redskins in Washington. Saints are driving for what would be a 10-point lead. If they kick this field goal. It's now 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, I think was the down and distance. Saints pick up the first down. But Jim Dombrowski punches Dexter Manley in the face.
Understandable.
15-yard penalty. Replay the down. Saints don't get the first down. They have to kick a long field goal. Morton Anderson misses it. And the Redskins go down, score a touchdown. Then they score one more touchdown and win the game. I think they win 27-17. Okay. Dexter Manley says, I sneezed. The video footage, on the other hand, says, you spit in Dombrowski's face.
I remember that.
So I'm sorry, I should have thrown this one up first. This is an interesting one. This was an interesting one about Doug Flutie. We'll talk about
that. I see that. We'll
talk about that in a second because that was his and here you go, Jerry. Talking about the beast mode.
No, I don't have the strength.
Well, here's the thing about that 88 loss to the Redskins. That gave the Saints an NFC loss. They ended up in a 3-way tie at a 10-6 record. And because they lost to the Rams and the Redskins, they had the worst of the 3-way tie. They had the worst record, tiebreaker record in the conference. So the Saints don't make the playoffs. The Redskins and the Rams do. That loss kept them out of the playoffs despite having a winning record. So that was a what if, and that would have been our first. We would have come right back to the playoffs after going for the first time in '87. So that's an interesting one too. All right, we're not going to talk about the game that I'm surprised my wife still stayed with me after, and that was the Eagles Saints playoff game in '92.
I
Give
love
up.
that story.
Oh God, that was the closest I ever came to wanting to kill a fellow human being in my life. If an Eagles fan would have said some shit to me, I would have been in jail because that's how pissed I was. I mean, that
I'm
all happened
sure.
right in front of me. I wanted to kill something. You know, I mean, that's how mad I was. Because once again, we'll never win. We go
Yeah.
12-4. We lose in the first round of the playoffs as our best team, and it's that feeling you'll never win. So
Yeah, I think it's ironic as again as Saints fans, you're conditioned to reach to overcome
Mhm.
and reach a certain point just to fail.
yeah,
And I can remember vividly in 2009 when Garrett Hartley walked out on that field in overtime.
Mhm.
I was laying on my bed just like this.
yeah.
I'm not Catholic, but I was doing this, and I'm laying there like this, going to get this far just to lose.
Yeah, and then you hear the
And I heard him blow the whistle, and I was like,
yeah,
and
because you get the same old Saints argument. That's the thing.
yeah,
That all the people who don't say shit the whole year, as soon as they lose, same old Saints.
yeah,
I don't know
same
why
old
you
Saint.
follow, I don't know why you follow those a-holes. They're going to do the same thing to you every time. They're going to tease you, and then they lose. So I don't know why you follow that stuff. You know, that's
people that don't believe in anything will follow nothing.
well, but those are the people that piss me off because they're the ones that come back later on and say, "Oh yeah, lifetime baby, lifetime Saints fan." Oh no,
Yeah,
winner Saints fan. That's the only time you're a Saints fan when they win.
yeah,
I'm
bandwagon.
right. I'm emotionally invested in this stuff. So
Exactly.
once again, because they lose that playoff game in '92, the Saints try and rebuild the team with a more powerful offense. It doesn't work out. The defense falls apart. So here we go to 1996 now. Now it's been 3 years since Jim Moore has been to the playoffs. I'm saying 93. Well, that's when the playoff game was. 4 seasons, 3 years. Okay. Jim Moore's last year. This is a critical draft. We did know someone who said that. My brother. We know somebody who said that. Yeah, I know. I know exactly who you're talking about who said that.
Said what?
Same old Saints. I don't know why you follow them people. Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna have to tell me that story later.
I'll let him throw it. I'll let my brother throw that name out there. I'm not going to throw that person under the bus. It's a family.
Oh no! It's we can throw people under the bus here.
Anyway, so we get to 96. Critical draft. The offense has just gotten to be good, and we just need a few pieces to really get back to being a winner. Saints allegedly were looking at Tim Biakabatuka out of Michigan as a running. The
Penn State.
Was it Penn State? I thought it was Michigan. I'm almost positive it was Michigan.
Penn State.
I'm
almost certain.
I'm gonna check this shit.
And remind me in just a minute. I have the ultimate what if.
Okay,
but I'm gonna save that. You go ahead.
Okay. All right. So Biakabatuka goes to the Panthers. Chad's got me. Michigan. Yes, I thought so.
Biakabatuka was at Penn State, wasn't he?
No.
No. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. My bad.
Yeah, drafted by Carolina at 5.
Yeah, he was drafted by Carolina, and he played like 4 or 5 years before knee problems ended his career.
Exactly. So,
not to mention the stress that he put on those people that had to spell his name right on the back of his jersey. Yeah. But anyway.
So this is the year of Eddie George. Eddie George is tumbling down the draft boards. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kajana Carter, but that was 93, I think. He was number 1 overall in 93. Might have been 95.
He was from Penn State.
He was from Penn State, and he blew out his knee in training camp. And
for
he
the
was
Bengals.
yes, he was never the same. I want to say it was 95 was that draft. But anyway, so Biakmatuk is off the board. Now, Mario Bates was about 52 yards roughly away from 1,000. Okay. Been the first 1,000-yard running back since Dalton Hilliard in 1989. But you're seeing Eddie George from Ohio State sliding down the board. The fans are all excited about Eddie George. Who do we take? Alex Molden out of Oregon. And we'd already brought in Eric Allen, Mark McMillan, Greg Jackson, Patrick Newman. We brought all these guys in. We didn't, why are you drafting Alex Molden? And Alex Molden wasn't even that good. I'm
glad we've already had him on the show.
Yes, we did. But I'm just talking about as far as he was not a shutdown corner.
He wasn't the necessary piece that this team needed at the time.
Not for the kind of.
And I truly believe that he'll be the first one to tell you that. And as memory serves me, I believe that that's what he said when he was on our show.
Exactly. I think he said he was projected to be a second or third round pick originally, and shot up the boards to the first round. But the fans were all chanting just like they did for Ricky Williams in '99 and Reggie Bush in 2006. Eddie, and we didn't get it.
Alex.
It sucked all the life out of the room, and it really turned the fans on the Saints that season. Now let's just play the what if game. What if Jim Mora does draft Eddie George? Okay, and he becomes your feature back in 1996. Do we get? We couldn't do diddly poo. We couldn't get a first down. We didn't try to get a first down. We couldn't run the ball. Didn't try to run the ball. We sucked. Do we get that whole eruption?
Well, at that point, to be totally honest, and I've never said this on the show before, but I think that Jim Mora was not dealing with reality at that point in his career. He was like, woo, no. But the prospect of Eddie George being a New Orleans Saint, that could have been a certifiable game changer. It really could have.
Here's the thing I think what happens. Moore probably does resign regardless, because I think the diddly poo explosion happens because he's looking at, that sounds horrible, but anyway, that meltdown happens because he watched Sam Mills do this to his team. And Sam Mills was his favorite player.
Yes.
He will do that to this day.
Yeah, they were together in Philadelphia in the USFL. He is the one that started Mills' career, gave him an opportunity when everybody else said he's too small, he's too this, he's too that. Jim Mora is the one that gave him an opportunity to prove what he could do. And just as you said, Mora will probably tell you to this day that that's the favorite player that he's ever had.
Right. And he had already lost Morton Anderson because of a stupid decision about salary. And Mills left because Mills felt slighted for the fact that the Saints let him go out in free agency and test the market to find out what he was worth. And then they tried matching what Carolina was willing to pay him. And he was pissed off because, here he is. I put all this time in. I've been a loyal player. And how are you going to treat me? I have to go out and prostitute myself to find out how much you're going to pay me? F you, I'm out of here. I mean, that was basically Sam Mills' attitude.
Well, I can't blame him for that, because at that point in time, if you ask the three remaining surviving members of the Dome Patrol which player was the key to that linebacking unit's success, they will tell you to a man, Sam Mills.
Yeah. So, Moore is already on, burnt out on the Saints because of that. So yeah, I still think it happens because I think the defense wasn't good enough. You lost Quinn Early, who we did have on our show. You lost Wesley
Several
Wall.
times.
Yes, you're overpaying. Uh, 81, Michael Haynes, and you're going to try and make Torrance Small, who was a good slot receiver, into your number 2 receiver. It wasn't a good combination. Even Jim Everett said, "You've taken away all my guys." So the offense wasn't going to be as explosive. The thing that I think happens, though, maybe you don't go Mike Ditka in 1997. And you definitely don't have to go Ricky Williams in 99 because you have Eddie George on the team now. So
dear God, no.
That's your running back.
Yeah.
So this brings in what Avery said. Let's suppose that Tom Benson still listens to Buddy D and he brings in Mike Ditka. Because, Buddy D will tell you, Buddy D got Mike Ditka to be the head coach of the Saints because they were doing a show on the radio, and he thought Ditka was ready to be a coach again. He heard Ditka talk, and Ditka was saying all the right things. And Buddy D in 1993 tried to get Jim Moore fired the first time because that was the split between Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, and Buddy wanted Jimmy Johnson to come coach the Saints in 93 or 94, whatever year.
Oh, my God. What a what if.
Yeah. That was, and Benson wouldn't do it. Benson wasn't interested. Now, I don't think Jimmy Johnson would have come.
I don't either.
I think Johnson wanted to be, he took the Dolphins job because he was already in Miami.
Yeah.
I don't think Johnson would have taken any other job but the Dolphins job.
To be honest, I think he took the Dolphins job not as a job, but as a hobby. He missed being a part of something, but he never seemed like and I got to choose these words carefully, he never seemed like he was completely sold out to the concept the way that he was with Dallas.
Dallas, he was trying to prove something.
Yeah, he had something to prove.
And
you're absolutely right.
I don't think he felt he had something to prove in Miami. You had an aging Dan Marino, too, so that was hard for him to really build his team.
Yeah.
What he really wanted to do was do what he did in Dallas, strip it all down to the bones and build again, suck for a couple of years until all these draft picks start paying off and, build your team out of that. You couldn't do that with Dan Marino.
No.
It's like Breeze here. You have to keep Marino because that is the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So let's just say that the Saints go ahead and hire Ditka. So now you've got Eddie George in your team. You're looking for a quarterback. I don't know if Danny Abramowitz still ends up being the offensive coordinator. He probably does because he and Ditka were church buddies. Avery brings up Doug Flutie is playing in the CFL.
Toronto Argonauts.
Yes. Suppose the Saints get Doug Flutie instead of the Billy Joes and the Heath Schulers and the Danny Werfels. And you pulled Kerry Collins out of the bar and you stuck a drink in front of him and said, here, you get to have this drink if you play 4 quarters, that kind of thing. You're an alcoholic in the city you're going to play in New Orleans? That's not a good combination. That's like loving to smoke marijuana and playing for the Broncos. It's not a good combination.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, that hurt. Yeah, Kerry Collins is not exactly a bright and shining moment in Saints history. Not nearly as bad as Heath Schuler, but anyway, continue.
Well, I'm just saying, with Doug Flutie, you actually have a legitimate quarterback. He's short, but he knew how to win.
Yeah, exactly. And I get so tired and so sick of hearing people talk about Doug Flutie's career, college, he was small, he was this, he was this, he was this. Just like you so astutely pointed out about Jimmy Graham once, all he did was win.
Yep.
Wherever he went. When he went to Boston College, he won. When he went to Toronto, he won. When he played in San Diego, in New England, in Buffalo, he won.
He brought in Flutie flakes. I mean, he made Buffalo a playoff team again.
Yeah. And they repaid him by pulling him in the most important playoff game of their history to that point.
Music City Miracle. There's Eddie George right there in '99. So, let's say Flutie's playing here instead of in Buffalo. Buffalo doesn't go to the playoffs because they certainly don't win with Rob Johnson. That's what that's proven. And Rob Johnson, if you drew a quarterback and I said, this is how I want him to look. I want him to be this tall, have this kind of arm strength. I want him to have this kind of presence. Oh, Rob Johnson's it. Rob Johnson is up. He didn't have what Flutie has between the ears, the mental toughness to make the plays happen. And Drew Brees, because Flutie goes to San Diego after he leaves Buffalo, he goes to San Diego. Drew Brees comes in 2001. Flutie replaces Brees in 2003 because he was ineffective. But Flutie taught Drew how to be a quarterback.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what I was saying, Chad. Flutie will tell, Drew will tell you over and over and over again, this is the guy who taught me how to be a quarterback. And the reason the way he does.
If you ever read his book, that's exactly what Drew Brees says. The guy that taught him how to be an NFL quarterback and how to play the position and how to live the position was Doug Flutie. So you want the ultimate what if?
Yes.
What if Nick Saban had signed Drew Brees?
Okay. That has been a popular one on ESPN. That's a tough one because does Nick Saban stay in Miami those extra couple of years?
Well, to me, that's not so much the deal. To me, the deal is if Saban does sign Brees instead of Dante Culpepper, then for the most part, that means that New Orleans never has an opportunity to get Brees again. They would have let him go and moved on in a different direction. But what direction would that have been? Would the Saints have pursued Culpepper at that point? I don't know.
No, they probably would have gone after, would have gone ahead and drafted Matt Leinart out of USC.
Oh, Jesus.
In 2006, because who Peyton really wanted first was Tony Romo. He offered draft picks for Tony Romo from.
I think that would have been an excellent choice, actually.
For sure. And
I think, just as we said earlier about it's not Alzheimer's, it's sometimers. Just like we said about Flutie, I think that I think that the reputation as a player of Tony Romo is so unfair. He was an excellent quarterback, and he is so vastly underrated as a player. I truly believe that.
Well, Parcells knew that Romo was going to be his starter. It was his future. That Drew Bledsoe that was the end of Bledsoe's career.
Sure.
So that's why he wasn't going to trade Romo to the Saints and Peyton. Peyton was the offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback's coach. He knew what Romo could do. They were not going to make that deal. So if they don't go Matt Leinart, then you're talking about a quarterback like a Cade McNown coming in.
God.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of options you have.
No.
from that point on, and you go through a bit of a quarterback carousel. You don't get that instant success.
People
That was
think it's so easy to say, well, why don't we just draft a? Well, the law of averages says that each year a quarterback class will generally consist of maybe 5 players at best, 5 players that are worthy of being a franchise quarterback. Of those 5, 1 will succeed every 3 years.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as you think it is.
Yeah, so you're really looking at, where do you go from here as a quarterback? Where do you get your quarterback from? And it becomes a challenge, because once you lock up Breeze, that's a question you don't have to answer anymore. And the Cowboys, that's why they weren't going to let Romo go, because they knew that was their future. So yeah, if you don't do Matt Leinart, suppose you go another direction for a quarterback, you're still going on a quarterback carousel for a little while until you find your starter. And I don't know where that guy comes from. So yeah, that's a huge what if, because that's a big hole that you're trying to fill. Yeah,
there's so many questions, so many sidebars to consider if Drew Brees never played for New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Things I don't like to think about, but I have bad dreams at night about.
Well, here's the thing too. Without Sean Payton, and we're going to talk about this one in a second too, Avery, because that's probably the last one we're going to be able to go. No, he doesn't. No.
Okay, Avery's banished. That's it.
But I lost my train of thought here. What was I just getting ready to say? Because now I'm thinking about that. Okay, no, I do remember. Nick Saban had his philosophy of what he wanted his offense to do, without the creative genius of Sean Payton saying, okay, I'm going to design an offense around your strengths, and I'm a better play caller than Nick Saban or anybody for Nick Saban's team, because Nick Saban wins with defense. Nick Saban wanted to build a great defense, strong running game, and a quarterback doesn't make many mistakes.
A game manager. That's all that Saban has ever played with.
Well, until he got to Tua, then he got somebody who's more of a playmaker. And you got a little bit of that with Jalen Hurts, but you really got it with Tua. But before that, not McCown, the guy everybody wants that came from Alabama, McCarron. McCarron, he's a game manager. He's not a playmaker. So
the last playmaker quarterback to come from the University of Alabama was Joe Namath.
Oh, Kenny Stabler came after Namath, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought it was before, but yeah, okay, Stabler, I'll give you that one. All that they want is 3 yards in a cloud of dust and beat the hell out of you defensively, and that's been their recipe through Bear Bryant, through Gene Stallings, Nick Saban. That's their philosophy. That is Alabama football.
But Nick Saban didn't like to have to deal with players and contracts. He liked being the sole authority.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, get the hell out of here and you'll never play football again. And you just can't do that in the NFL. So that was a lot of the weaknesses of Saban. So does Breeze become successful in Miami? Does he take him to the Super Bowl? I don't think he does. In fact, I think Saban still leaves. And they bring in a Cam Cameron to try and build an offense around Breeze, and I don't think it really works. So,
to be honest, in my humble opinion, humble and me in the same sentence, I knew I could do that. In my opinion, if Breeze had gone to Miami and played for the Dolphins, everything that you see now would have never taken place.
Oh no, absolutely not. And I don't think he's in. I definitely don't think he's in the top 10 quarterbacks, because he's not in an offensive system that emphasizes his skills, and he
He
doesn't.
would have been used up and thrown away just like every quarterback that's played in that and on that team in the past 10 years.
Yeah, because they were constantly building a team that's built around a running game and strong defense. That's the kind of coaches they were going to bring in that franchise. And that was a weakness. That was a huge weakness. So Avery brings up, and this is the last one because we're way over time. What the hell was that? You digging in cans? Are you homeless over there? Oh, okay.
I'm cutting tinfoil.
We don't have to go there. Never mind. All right. So anyway,
I've been watching a lot of Dexter. Give me a break.
So Avery brings up this last point.
Okay.
2017 draft. Kansas City and the Buffalo Bills don't come to agreement on a compensation. The Bills go ahead. The Bills go ahead and draft Marshawn Lattimore in the first round at number 11. Here's the Saints. And there's
Patrick
Mahomes. Saints pull the trigger. What happens next?
Well, number one, Drew finishes out that season under contract and then retires because you don't use a first-round draft pick on a quarterback that you don't intend to play.
Yep.
Obviously. Without Lattimore, who and let me frame this as best I can. When he chooses to be, Lattimore is one of the best defensive players on the roster. When he chooses to be, but without Lattimore, does that team have everything that it needs to succeed? That's purely up to speculation. But I do believe that Mahomes in New Orleans could have worked. But let me say this. You give me a choice between Pat Mahomes and Drew Brees on the New Orleans Saints, I'll take Brees every day of the week.
I think with Patrick Mahomes running the offense, and I agree, I think he's there in 2018. You lose the defensive rookie of the year, so you still have a problem at cornerback. I don't know if the defense is good enough to get back to the playoffs in 2017 without Lattimore on the field. So I think Brees retires. I agree with you. I think Brees goes ahead and retires after the 2017 season. I don't see him finishing somewhere else. Avery says Minnesota, but I just don't see it happening.
Curse you, Avery.
But I don't know if the Saints go to the Super Bowl and go to the playoffs in 2018 either, because now your 2018 draft is really shaped with getting defensive help. You need a lot of defensive help. You need to upgrade your linebackers. You need to upgrade your secondary, because you still are going to have, what's his name? Ken Crawley back there. You're still going to have PJ Williams back there as a starting corner. So, you're going to have to.
That's a depressing thought.
Yeah, you're going to have to replace those corners. I have a feeling they swing big and try and get a high price free agent corner on one end, at least, to replace Crawley, and maybe look for another one in the draft to replace PJ. So, it's hard to say. And then I'm wondering where the speed receivers will come from, because you've got Michael Thomas. But where's your, if you're counting on Mahomes completing passes to Ted Ginn Jr., I don't think that works either. So
No, because he has to take Geritol and get out of the wheelchair.
I mean, it really changes what you do. You probably keep Brandon Cooks. Well, no, you've already let him go, so that's your second first round pick. I'm sorry. No, you have to go find somebody to replace Brandon Cooks. So that's the things that happened in 2018. I don't think you get your window of 3 division titles. I think your rebuilding process just extends a couple more years.
Yeah.
With Patrick Mahomes, maybe 2019 you're in the playoffs and you have a good shot at going to the Super Bowl in 2019. It all depends on what you do in 2018 as far as the draft.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Yeah, he's saying Breeze signs with another team. You know,
I don't think so. I really don't. I believe in my heart of hearts that Drew wants to end his career in New Orleans. I really believe that. I don't believe that he's going to be one of these guys like Tom Brady that wants to continue his legacy, blah, 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 blah. That
here's the thing that makes me wonder. Do the Dallas Cowboys go get Drew Brees for one last run?
No.
Because that's something Jerry Jones would try and pull. Or the Houston Texans. Do they make that move? Well, of course, they have a quarterback too. But, I mean, I can see some team that's thinking they're a quarterback away from making a run. And that's why the Vikings keep coming up. And throwing a lot of money at Drew for a single season. And if Drew thinks they've got the weapons to make him successful, does he make that jump?
Because I don't believe that he does.
Well, the Vikings did try and make an offer to him. What was it, 2018? That really wasn't. He wasn't taking their offer, but I think they did try and make an offer to him before they signed Kirk Cousins. It might have been 2017. I don't remember what year it was he signed that contract extension, but that's the hard part because you have to move on from Breeze. Then we got to throw in one other player. What do you do with excuse me, what do you do with Taysom Hill with Patrick Mahomes on the roster? He doesn't become the gadget player.
Business as usual.
Yeah. This is it. Vikings talk to Breeze, $60 million guarantee for 2 years. I do remember that. I just couldn't remember what year that was that happened.
But see, to a player like Breeze, legacy means a lot.
Yeah.
How he is remembered as a player means everything to a guy like Breeze. And being, for lack of a better word, being a mercenary, that's not something that Drew Brees wants.
That's why I said it's got to be a team that is a player away from a Super Bowl, that was that close to going to the Super Bowl. Okay. And that's what I don't know what happens with that. I mean, because I don't know. I don't think Minnesota is a player away from the Super Bowl. Dallas may tempt him thinking that they're a player away from the Super Bowl. I don't know.
But at the same time, Dallas is sort of kind of hitching their wagons to Dak Prescott. Houston is, they are now. Houston with their guy as well. And you're not going to ask Dak Prescott or Hopkins to not Hopkins.
I know you're talking about. You're talking about
Watson.
Yeah.
You're not going to ask those guys.
No.
To go from starter to the bench to accommodate a mercenary. You're just not going to do that.
Here's the thing. Last weekend, NFL Network re-showed the 2017 playoff game between the Cowboys and the Packers, and
why?
Oh, just for television. But that was a game where Dak Prescott all season long had won games by being a game manager, throwing short little underneath passes, but running Ezekiel Elliott to death. And I think they went 13-3. They were the number one overall seed in the playoffs. No, it was 20. Was it 27? It might have been 2016. I don't remember what year it was now. My son kept saying it was 2016, so he was probably right, because I think that's the year Green Bay won on a last-second throw by Aaron Rodgers on a sideline.
Yeah,
Caught a little pass, and then they go play
that-
Atlanta the following year, and they get their ass kicked.
that was the year that Dez didn't catch the ball.
No, that's going further back. That's Romo. That's going back in Green Bay, 2015, 2014 season, January 2015. Dez didn't catch it.
Yeah, okay, my bad.
Yeah, because they had like 3 other games that happened, the same kind of thing, including Megatron against the Bears, where he catches the ball, but he extends the ball out and hits the ground, and they said no catch. So, all this stuff about, no, Dez really caught the ball. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Not according to the rules at that time, he did not.
If Dez would have caught the ball, y'all would have won.
Right.
Bye. See you.
Right.
Thanks for playing. Bye-bye.
So, anyway, that was that season. So, I guess my point about all this was, you have to move on from Breeze. Breeze is going to probably, I agree. I think Breeze does go somewhere. But I think we rebuild a lot longer around Patrick Mahomes that we didn't do because we had Breeze. We didn't have to do that. So that's what makes that a hard what if. We still have the window open for us as long as Breeze is still playing. So, it just makes it – that's a tough one. That's a really tough one.
It really is.
It worked out. I think it worked out good for us. I think it worked out well, obviously, for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you bitch about a Lombardi?
Avery, I think the whole slant thing with Thomas is a lot of bullshit that Falcon fans are starting. I think Thomas still excels in a system that's trying to stretch the field with Mahomes. He's not a deep threat, but he's that possession guy, and he can run the 9 and 10 yard routes and underneath routes and get the first downs that Mahomes wants, and he's going to catch everything that's thrown to him. So I still think.
Can
Thomas
I quote you?
Well. What?
Can I quote you?
What? What do you want to quote me?
If we're going to talk about Thomas, and I want to add a disclaimer, this is not PG-13, and if there's any small children in the room, rush them out real quick. All Thomas does is catch fucking touchdowns.
All he does is catch everything that's thrown to him. That's
Absolutely.
what he was. This bullshit about him catching, all he does is catch slants. Okay, then stop him. You can't.
All you got to do is keep him from catching it.
Yeah.
And until you can do that,
he's running every route in the book. He played
16 games this year. How many of those 16 games did he go over 100? How many games did it take him to accumulate 1,000 yards receiving on a team with no certifiable number 2?
Right.
If you want to bitch about him, all you got to do is stop him. And until you do,
well, it's just it's stupid. It's a stupid argument to have because he caught everything. It's just he knows how to get open. That's the thing that's impressive about him. He doesn't have to have top speed. He knows how to get open, and it's just to listen to this stuff. Don't get me started. Don't get that. That's just bullshit. Just to
Michael Thomas is a throwback to an older time because he works at what he does. It's very important to him to be the very best at what he does. And all these pundits and talking heads will tell you that Julio Jones is the best receiver in the NFC South. Not a chance in hell. Michael Thomas blows him away because Julio Jones can go for 250 yards in one game and then disappear for 3. Michael Thomas does it week after week after week after week. Last year was proof of that. He had probably the most consistent season of any wide receiver in history.
Well, they're looking at stats like how far is the ball in the air and all these other things. It's all.
Who the hell cares?
It's all staples of the West Coast offense, and the thing is, it doesn't matter who's covering him. He gets out there and he goes and gets the ball. He runs routes to perfection. He catch the back shoulder fade. He can just physically get off of blocks. He broke Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes used to be a top 10 cornerback. And you watch that 2017 playoff game. Watch Xavier Rhodes lose his shit on the sidelines because Michael Thomas is beating him up. He never had to deal with somebody like that.
And he has not played the same since.
He never did. Just
like when OBJ went up against the player from Carolina. Damn, what was his name?
Are you talking about Steve Smith?
No, he ended up leaving Carolina and going to Washington. Cornerback, shutdown corner.
Oh, Josh Norman.
Yeah, when OBJ went up against Josh Norman,
mm-hmm.
OBJ was never the same after that because Norman exposed him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's the thing. I mean, he is just a masterful route runner with unbelievable hands, and he just works and works and works. And it doesn't matter how fast he is. The fact is, he catches everything that's thrown to him, and it could be a 5-yard play, it could be a 15-yard play. Whatever he's going to do, he's going to catch it, and you can hit him, and he still catches it. So I mean that's
of the best receivers in NFL history was Pat Tilley, played for the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
You could clock him in a 40 with a calendar. He was the slowest man on the face of God's earth. But if it touched his hands, he caught it. That's the most important thing.
Jerry Rice only ran a 4.5. Or 4.7, something like that. But man, he could run on the football field. He got in the open space. He could run. You threw him the ball. He's catching it.
That's it.
And that's how the game works. All this stuff about you got to be big, got to be fast. That's all ESPN highlight shit. I'm talking about doing the
biometrics don't mean shit when you're on the field.
Well, it's just that it's great to see it. It's fun to watch. But when you need to extend a drive, that's who's going to do it for you. So
that's it. Absolutely.
And you can double cover him. You can triple cover him. He's still going to find a way to get open when he needs to.
That's right.
All right, guys, we're way over time. We're almost an hour and 40 minutes into this. So, that's
you're welcome.
That's what happens when you start doing these what ifs. Thank you guys for sticking with us. I know we had as many as 9 at one time on here. Now we're down to 4. Thank y'all for sticking with us all this time. Come back and watch the replay of it. Sean, anything you got to say before we wrap it up?
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. As always, there's no us without you, and we appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your Tuesday nights to join us. It means the world to us. This is a labor of love for us, and we love you guys. And we shall be back next Tuesday night.
Absolutely. We got anything you guys want us to talk about, go ahead and throw it out there because there's a lot of time before this regular season starts and COVID-19 and everything else going on. We don't know what's going to happen yet. As of now, the season's supposed to go on, but in the meantime, let's talk about other stuff to try and keep us upbeat, make us laugh. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.